Well, shaking the camera there. So, I'm going to be talking about mating behavior. Now, unfortunately, nobody's ever seen a great white shark mate. And we've never seen courtship behavior. It's never been recognized, it's never been seen, it's never been filmed. But we know how other shark species mate. Now, first of all, sharks copulate. So they got two modified fins, which are actually, for better term, penises. So they got two penises, and when they become what we call calcified, as such they become hard, the male shark is then mature. And it takes a male great white shark, as far as we know, around about probably between 8 and 12 years to become sexually mature, because they become sexually mature from about 3.5 meters upwards. And the females become, from what we know, sexually mature from about 15 years onwards. And they're larger than the males, which makes sense, and I'll explain to you why. So what happens, the female will swim along, and this we know from other shark species, as I mentioned. The female shark will swim along, and the male shark there's obviously must be some sort of courtship behavior that we've never seen in great white sharks, as I said. But the male will come up and he'll grab the female on a pectoral fin. So, where's my model? Oh, up there. So you'll grab the female on the pectoral fin, and then they'll cruise along. And there was a 6-meter great white shark that was caught in a net in Gansbaai in 1986. It was the largest great white shark ever caught in South Africa at that time, or landed, and I still think it is. It's a huge great white shark, and the jaw was sold for 80,000 US pounds eventually, in about 2001 or something. But this big 6-meter female, had mating scars on her right pectoral fin, and we examined it. I mean, I didn't examine it then in '86. I was still at school, but we had access to the fin, these pectoral fins. So when we started doing research and we went down in Gansbaai, we examined it, and you could clearly see the love bites on the pectoral fin, and there were several sets of love bites. So you could see that the male came in and took the pectoral fin, and they went through their mating cycle, and he held on. But if he just went like this, he could bite that entire pectoral fin off. But you could see that the shark held on gently and penetrated the female's skin, left scars there. And then you could see that as the ecstasy built, he let go of his initial grip, and then maybe about that far further down the pectoral fin, he grabbed on again, and you could clearly see the mating scars. And then he must have let go again and grabbed on, because a couple of inches or 10 centimeters further down, there was another love bite. So you could see that this is how the great white sharks mate, the same as other shark species, which makes total sense. And, so they copulate, and the female, as I explained in biology, she has internal fertilization. It's called oophagy, or uterine cannibalism. Uterine cannibalism, because the female continues producing yolks, and the pups inside the female feed on the yolks, and eventually they're live born at 1 to about 1.5 meters in length. And the litter sizes can be anything from maybe 2 to 14 in a litter, but you probably find that averages around about 8, 9 in a litter. And of course, the sharks don't suckle from the mother, and once they're born, they're little terrorists, and off they go into the world, and they terrorize the reefs that they're living on. So they built for action as soon as they're born. But what is interesting is that, and why the females become sexually mature later than the males, is because the male has to be smaller than the female in order to copulate, as far as I'm concerned, because he holds onto the pectoral fin. Now, the pectoral fin is quite far back from the nose, or the end of the snout of a great white shark, the female. So if they were the same size, the male would have to grab on, but then they would be completely out of sync. So imagine my hands are two great white sharks, the same size, and the male grabs over here. He's not going to be able to copulate. He's going to be copulating with water, mating with the surrounding water. But because he's smaller than the female, comes up and holds onto the pectoral fin, and they mate correctly. And he can actually insert his claspers into the female and fertilize her. And what is very interesting about this is I just been talking about the fact that they got size, self-awareness and size perception. So, and then again, they've got the social hierarchy. So the female will have to put out mating signals that allows a smaller male to come up to her close enough that they can actually mate. So the female at that point will, she's not a mature female is not going to attract a larger male to her. She's going to attract a smaller male to her because she needs to. And that's the only way they're going to be able to mate. And so she'll have to put out signals to say, listen, peace. And you're allowed to approach me. I know that, our species has got this serious social distancing. I'm talking about this in the middle of a COVID virus pandemic. But we have personal spacing, and there's social hierarchy, whether we're male or female, and the size takes dominance. And I know I'm larger than you, and you know you're smaller than me. But today, you can come close, and we can touch, and we can throw away all our borders and all our social problems, and we can mate and reproduce. And that is another interesting aspect about the behavior of these species. And what I'm trying to show you here, and what I'm trying to teach you, is that their behavior, and that is so complex. You watch these documentaries on Discovery and National Geographic and stuff. It's a veneer. You got these, keep calling them 10-minute white shark experts, these scientists that waffle on, and they know nothing about what they're talking about, and they give you a very thin piece of the great white shark's world because they don't know these animals. So people have this perception that we're dealing with, just a very basic, simple species. But how can a species be 20 million years old or 10 million years old and be a basic, simple species? How can a species be at the top of the food chain for so long and be a basic species? No, it takes intelligence in order to remain at the top of that food chain and survive at the top of that food chain, because this is a rare species. So they're complex animals, extremely complex. Hope you enjoyed that video.